So I just wanna welcome everybody. I'm Leslie McCain. I'm the Executive Director of the Illinois Solar Energy and Storage Association. And we're really excited today to talk about all the workforce programs and opportunities that the Clean and Reliable Grid Act, passed in 2021, has afforded us here in the state thus far. We have a very impressive panel for you. Nicola, could you go to the agenda? There you go. So we've got a very impressive, and as you can tell, action-packed agenda today. So we're going to be moving quickly. The webinar is going to be recorded, so we will share this out along with the slide deck to the registrants. So you can review and have all the news that's fit to print. As far as questions are concerned, we're going to hold those to the end. I think we've left plenty of time for questions. As you think of them, please feel free to put them in the chat. And then at the end, we can unmute people so that if you want to ask your question in real time, you're able to. So thanks again for taking the time to spend with us this afternoon and learn more about what has been happening in diversifying Illinois' workforce. I guess I do have one other thing to say. I do understand that the DEI workforce opportunities that were afforded by CEJA were unprecedented at that time across the country. I had checked in with my executive director colleagues in the other state trade associations. So Illinois really is a model for many things, but certainly for ensuring that clean energy opportunities are affordable and also bringing jobs to many different communities here in the state. So with that, I'm going to hand the mic to Jessica Collingsworth. Jessica is the Central Policy Director for Nexamp. Jessica, it's all yours.
Great, thanks, Leslie. Hi all, thanks for joining us this afternoon. As Leslie mentioned, CEJA was really an important policy that's created a lot of solar growth in the state. So my role on today's webinar is to kind of set the stage on where we're at with federal legislation that recently passed, as well as some of the impacts around job development, economic development from CEJA. So next slide, please. Okay, so just a little background with the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill, or HR1, which it's also called at the federal level. There was a lot of big impacts to solar development, and we're going to see a lot of impacts moving forward in the coming years as well. So some of those key things were for solar facilities that begin construction after July 4th, 2026. The 45Y and 48E tax credits are subject to a placed in service deadline of December 31, 2027. So in order to get those tax incentives for solar, you have to be up and operating the solar project by December 31, 2027. Additionally, solar projects that begin construction before July 4th, 2026 are not subject to the 2027 deadline. The 2027 placed in service requirement does not apply to energy storage projects. So that is a component that is very relevant to the state legislation that we're going to get into later. But just flagging that 2027 deadline, or sorry, placed in service deadline does not apply to energy storage projects. Another thing to highlight for folks is there is no ban on third-party financed home solar solutions within the One Big Beautiful Bill, also known as HR1. Next slide, please. I'm sure people have heard a lot about FEOC, which is the Foreign Entity of Concern restrictions. I will note there's still a lot of waiting to see what additional guidance we get from the federal government on FEOC. But what we know now is beginning next year, no specified foreign entity or foreign influenced entity can claim either an installation for a wind and solar production investment tax credit, so that's the 45E and 48E, or sorry, 45Y or 48E, or a manufacturing, which is the 45X tax credit. These foreign entities of concern are defined as entities with ties to China, Russia, North Korea, or Iran. Next slide, please. Additionally, some additional guidance. So projects that begin construction after December 31, 2025, so December 31 of this year, and products sold in 2026 and later cannot receive material assistance from a prohibited foreign entity. So under material assistance, developers must obtain a growing share of project components, starting at 40 to 50% in 2026 and increasing thereafter as high as 85% from sources other than such FIOC entities. So you can see that this is very problematic in the sourcing of materials, especially around storage components, and that they cannot come from certain entities of concern in certain countries. Next slide, please. But as Leslie mentioned, our ray of hope is Illinois. So Illinois has done a lot of great work in renewable development and a lot of action on climate. The huge legislation that passed in 2021 was the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, also known as CEJA. CEJA requires Illinois to procure 40% of its electricity from renewables by 2030 and 50% by 2040. CEJA also created the Equity Accountability System, which is a statutory framework that aims to ensure historically underserved or marginalized communities, which is workers, businesses, residents in polluted or economically disadvantaged areas, are meaningfully included in the clean energy economy. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on the EAS because I know the IPA is going to go into deeper detail on that, but it was huge. In my understanding, the first of its kind for a state to include an equity accountability system in a state statute. Additionally, a huge component of CEJA is the workforce training and job access components. So several programs were created within CEJA targeted at equity eligible individuals, and those include workforce training hubs run by community-based organizations, as well as Illinois Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program, returning residents, clean jobs training people for folks getting out of incarceration, as well as energy transition barrier reduction program to help with publicity, placement, retention, and job training programs. It's important to know the annual CEJA funding made available across the Clean Jobs Workforce Network. So this is the Workforce Hub, the Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program, the Transition Navigators Program, returning residents, etc. Totals around $97 million annually, and awards are made based on the approved budgets of successful grant applications, which again, we're going to get into more detail further into the presentation. Next slide, please. And then just real quickly, some further info on the equity accountability system to set the stage for the rest of the webinar. Just so folks are aware, the minimum equity standard is also a part of the equity accountability system. And as the MES, this requires for this delivery year, which is 2025 to 2026, there is a requirement that a minimum equity standard of 14%. So what that means is at least 14% of an approved vendor's entire project workforce must be made up of equity eligible persons. So this includes the project installation workforce and workforce and administrative, sales, marketing, technical roles, etc. Entire project workforce must be made up of equity eligible people. And then this percentage continues to increase annually, with that percentage going up to 30% by 2030. So there's a lot of effort being done by approved vendors to really bring equity eligible people into their workforces, both their workforces in office and also their workforces in the construction and in the field. And just real quickly, equity eligible person, for those not familiar, you can qualify as an equity eligible person based on 4 criteria. The first of which is you're a graduate of a CEJA or FIJA job training program. Again, on the previous slide, I listed what some of those programs are, but further in the presentation, we're going to go into some more detail on those specific programs. The second way to qualify is a person who is a graduate or currently enrolled in the foster care system. And the individual doesn't have to be formally enrolled or currently enrolled in Illinois' foster system. It could be any foster system in the country. Similarly, persons who were formerly incarcerated qualify as an equity eligible person, and those don't have to be folks that were incarcerated in Illinois, it's national. And lastly, a way by which to qualify as an equity eligible person is a person whose primary residence is in an equity investment eligible community. So on the IPA's website, there's a link to a map where you can look up your address to determine if you're an equity eligible person based on residence. And just to clarify, you just have to hit one of these criteria, one of the four. You don't have to hit all four. Great. That is it for me. So I'm going to hand it off now so we can go into some more detail about these great programs within CEJA.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jess. Yeah, next up is Nate Keener. Nate is the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, or CEJA's Central Regional Administrator for the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So Nate, let us know what I think Nate's going to let us know what all the CEJA programs entail.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Leslie, and thanks everybody for having me here today. I'm here to talk a bit about the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act rollout from the Office of Employment and Training, OET, at the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, DCEO. And just to mention, related to Jessica's presentations, the programs I'm about to talk about are funded within the state and not subject to any of the cuts happening at the federal level, though obviously we're tracking how these cuts and program changes will impact our local economies and the organizations who we're working with, as those may have downstream impacts on our work, especially related to job placement and project viability. Next slide, please. Oh, and one more. Thank you. Just very quickly want to show this slide, which I'll return to at the end of my presentation. And actually kind of serves as a rough agenda for my talk, actually. I'm going to talk primarily about the programs in the yellow square here, and those are the CEJA workforce training programs, plus CEJA, CEJA's predecessor. And those are all in DCEO OET's portfolio, which is my office. But I'm also going to touch on the contractor support programs in the orange box being managed by the Office of Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Technology, or OEIT. And very briefly on the economic development programs in the blue box on the bottom right, being managed by the Office of Energy and Business Utility, or OEBU. But these are all the CEJA programs in the DCEO portfolio. So after I give some information about the workforce training programs, I'll talk a bit about how my office works and intends to work with our sister DCEO units and other agencies to make sure programs all work together in one big CEJA ecosystem. Next slide, please. Jessica really covered the meat of this one here, so I just wanted to kind of give an idea, a reminder of kind of the target populations that we're serving, the equity investment eligible people in the communities where they live. And you can see here that a pretty substantial portion of Chicago, East St. Louis, and Peoria qualify as environmental justice or R3 community. And so the people living in those communities are equity investment eligible people. And yeah, so I think we'll go to the next slide here. Awesome. So now a little bit about the workforce programs in our OET CEJA portfolio. The Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program prepares people for apprenticeship programs in construction and the building trades. The pre-apprenticeship programs utilize a construction training curriculum with a clean energy focus, and they're being delivered in 3 regions across the state, represented here by the blue, goldish, and pink colors. The grantees are 548 Foundation in the North Chicago-centered region, and then Hire 360 in the central and southern regions on the map here. The black dots on the map represent the 20 current training locations for these 3 grantees, and the 2 yellow dots are training locations set to open soon in Aurora and Elgin. Participants in these programs have access to robust barrier reduction funding to help them eliminate or reduce barriers they may be facing for things like childcare, healthcare, transportation, communication, and many others. Participants also receive a stipend for their time spent in the program to ensure they can afford basic necessities. We don't see a ton of direct solar installation work coming out of these programs right away, but we are seeing students being placed in apprenticeship programs that are connected to solar, like IBEW electricians, iron workers, construction laborers, and several other fields that form crews for solar installs. Next slide, please. The next program, the biggest one and probably the most well-known program, is the Clean Jobs Workforce Network program, also known as the Workforce Hubs. The goal of this program is to prepare people for good-paying, entry-level clean energy jobs by providing clean jobs training, utilizing a standard clean jobs curriculum framework. All the participants for this program start in a bridge program, which covers essential skills and clean energy basics. All participants in the bridge earn the OSHA and CPR credentials. Upon successful completion of the bridge, they choose a field of clean energy training offered by the grantee based on that grantee's collaboration with local employers to understand their hiring needs. Participants in these programs also have access to robust barrier reduction funding and receive a stipend for their time spent in the program. And on the map, you can see the locations for all of the training sites for the hubs. I've listed the announced grantees for the locations across the state. The green dots represent established training locations. The yellow dots are areas where we just finished a successful round of NOFO solicitation, Notice of Funding Opportunity solicitation. Recommendations for funding are going to the director's office this week, and negotiations should be starting soon with those recommended applicants. The yellow dots are in Peoria, Danville, Carbondale, and then our newest hub location added by the legislature in 2024, Kankakee. Next slide, please. And here are all the kinds of programs being launched by the hubs. And as you can see, solar installation is our most popular program with the hubs and is the field generating the most graduates so far for this program. Next slide, please. Next is the ET Navigator program. The main goal of this program is to increase awareness of and participation in the CEJA programs. The Navigators are the recruiting arm of the CEJA workforce programs, primarily focusing on the workforce hubs and the Climate Works programs, but also helping to recruit for the contractor programs and potentially even non-CEJA programs, if those will be the best fit for interested participants. Navigators also play an important role in employer engagement, recruiting potential employers for hiring partnerships with the workforce programs. And here you can see the Navigator grantees and then the gaps. So again, the purple dots are where we have Navigator grantees identified, and the yellow dots are the areas currently under merit review. So similarly to the hub program, we're aiming to make recommendations to our director in the immediate term, with grant negotiations starting immediately thereafter, to get grantee programs off the ground in Champaign, Kankakee, and Decatur, and those are the 3 yellow dots on the map. Next slide, please. And then finally, the 4th workforce program that's part of our CEJA OET portfolio is the Returning Residents Clean Jobs Training Program. The goal of this program is to prepare returning residents for good-paying, entry-level clean energy jobs, and it'll be providing training inside the Illinois Department of Corrections facilities, utilizing a standard clean jobs curriculum very similar to the one used by the workforce hubs. This program is being implemented in 4 locations: the Kewanee Life Skills Reentry Center in Kewanee, the Decatur Correctional Center in Decatur, which is a women's facility, Western Correctional Center in Mount Sterling, and Vienna Correctional Center in Vienna. We have 4 grantees working through establishment for that program as of now, and at least a few of those should be offering programming in the next couple of months. The final grantee for the Vienna Correctional Center is still working through negotiations, so we're not yet to a point where we're able to announce that grantee publicly, but that announcement is likely just a few short weeks away. Next slide. And now the contractor programs, very briefly. These programs are managed by the Office of Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Technology, or OEIT, within DCEO, and they seek to support contractors who want to grow in the clean energy industry. The Clean Energy Contractor Incubator Program provides eligible contractors with access to low-cost capital, support for obtaining insurance, assistance registering to become vendors for state incentive programs, connections with firms hiring contractors and subcontractors, and other vital services. The program will be delivered at 14 delivery hub sites in the same communities where the Workforce Hub program is being delivered. The Clean Energy Primes Contractor Accelerator Program will provide a 5-year, 6-month progressive course of one-on-one coaching to assist contractor participants in developing 5-year business plans. This will include review of monthly metrics and advice on achieving participants' goals. Participating contractors will also be eligible for operational support grants, not to exceed a total of $1 million annually, and will have access to capital for upfront project costs and pre-development funding. Participants will receive mentorship, assistance preparing bids and requests for proposal applications, assistance connecting to state and federal programs, and more. Next slide, please. All right, so now back to this slide with all of the connection points added here. So we often talk about the CEJA ecosystem to refer to the fact that CEJA establishes many programs for which there are lots of areas of interconnection and overlap. And when it all works right, the programs sort of feed off of and reinforce each other. So here's how that looks from the Office of Employment and Training, or OET. The programs in the yellow box are those CEJA workforce training programs plus FEJA being managed by OET. Then in the orange box, we have the 2 contractor programs I just discussed being managed by OEIT. And then finally, the economic development, jobs, and environmental justice grants in the bottom right blue box being managed by the Office of Energy and Business Utility, or OEBU. Very quickly, the Energy Transition Community Grant there in that blue box provides funding to communities who have suffered or will suffer the loss of a fossil fuel power generating plant or mine. The Equitable Energy Futures Grant provides $25.5 million annually in pre-development funding to eligible contractors to support the development of renewable energy and energy efficiency projects benefiting historically disadvantaged communities. The Community Solar Energy Sovereignty Grant provides $8.5 million annually in pre-development funding to support activities related to community solar projects. And the Coal to Solar Grant program converts former coal plants to battery storage plants. So these programs largely activate renewable energy projects in local communities, and many of those are large-scale solar projects. And what we want to see is that all of these programs are working with each other to accomplish their goals. We want the contractors, supported by the contractor support programs, to hire from the workforce programs. We also want the workforce programs to potentially feed participants into the contractor programs if they're training folks who are like entrepreneurs. We want the economic development program grantees to also hire workforce program trainees for the projects that they activate. Many of the contractors supported by the contractor support programs may be interested in working with their local communities to apply for grants to activate the programs funded by the OEBU economic development grants. So we want OET, OEIT, and OEBU programs and the offices administering those grants to work together to identify renewable energy projects that need labor and the workforce and contractor programs that could support those needs. And not only do we want to see these programs making connections within the DCEO CEJA ecosystem, we also want them interacting with the broader CEJA ecosystem that includes our partners and other agencies like IPA. And just to give a quick example there, Illinois Power Agency, or IPA, manages the Energy Workforce Equity Portal, and CEJA Workforce Program participants register as equity-eligible people in that portal, where they can find open clean energy jobs and be found by clean energy employers looking to hire. And as I wrap up here, we're very close to full launch of our new CEJA website, which will provide more user-friendly ways to get in touch with the programs. And hopefully we're just days away from that. But in the meantime, if you're interested in reaching out to the CEJA workforce programs, I'm pasting a link in the chat, which will get you the contact information for all of those active programs if you want to reach out to begin collaborating. Next slide, please. And of course, I'm happy to answer questions or make introductions to these programs if you'd like to reach out to me. Here is my contact information, and thank you for your time today.
That's super. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Nate. That was wonderful. So next we have Tanvi Shah. Tanvi is the Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer at the Illinois Power Agency. So Tanvi, take it away.
Thank you so much, Leslie. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to be diving into the Illinois Power Agency's efforts to support equitable workforce development in the clean energy sector. And I'm also going to share some data from a report we published earlier this year that evaluates sort of the progress and challenges we've seen in implementing these equity-focused provisions under CEJA. So with that, let's get started. Very quickly, IPA, on the next slide here, you'll see that IPA is an independent state agency that is responsible for administering incentive programs and procurements that promote renewable energy generation in the state. And on the next slide, here we cover, so through CEJA, the agency was required to sort of strengthen the equity and diversity requirements in Illinois' clean energy sector. And so key components of that included the equity accountability system that was established, as well as a host of data transparency and accountability requirements to ensure that we were providing visibility into the progress we were making. And so all of these efforts are really designed to ensure that across the scope of IPA's programs and procurements, entities that are participating are really focused on the use of contractors and individuals that are going to increase the diversity of the sector. And for awareness, the equity accountability system is really just an umbrella term for equity-related provisions. And some of those include a minimum equity standard that Jessica was so kind to walk us through, as well as a dedicated category within the Illinois Shines program for solar projects that are submitted by equity-eligible contractors, as well as a bid selection preference for utility scale projects that are committed to using a higher percentage of equity eligible contractors and equity eligible persons. Additionally, as I mentioned, CEJA directed the agency to expand its data collection and reporting, and some of that data is what I'm going to walk us through today. So since Jessica reviewed some of the equity related definitions, I can skip through those pretty quickly. So on the next slide, we have the definition of an equity eligible person, which we've covered. Following that, on the next slide, we have a map of the EIEC community areas. And Nate and Jessica both spoke about this, but here you can see sort of a visual of the full map of eligible areas that qualify an individual to be an equity eligible person. And specifically, since the update in 2024, you can see that a lot more of the state is now registered and represented as those qualifying areas. On the next slide, you'll see the definition of an equity eligible contractor. And this is really just an individual who is a business that is owned by an individual who is an EEP or an individual that is providing personal services as an independent contractor. And if we skip to the next slide, I believe it's definition of the minimum equity standard, which has already been covered. So we'll move right into the EAS assessment. So on this next slide, you'll see that the agency was required to publish an assessment evaluating the effectiveness of the EAS and all of its equity provisions within the first or after the first year, just to see our progress to date. And so the next few slides are going to walk us through that data. So if you jump to the next slide, Nicola, and one more. Thank you. Okay, so right here you will see the minimum equity standard just compliance overview over the course of the year. So here we're looking at, in the first year of implementation, how companies did in complying with all of the required reporting related to the minimum equity standard. So this is the initial compliance reports, mid-year reports, as well as year-end reports. And overall, the trends were really promising. We saw an MES compliance rate of 78% of all of the entities that were participating in the program. And there was an indication of strong engagement and commitment to these equity standards. On the next slide, you'll see that in this initial year, we saw about 1,500 EEPs that were reported as part of the project workforce. And that accounted for about 18% of the total project workforce of individuals hired through the Illinois Shines or working on Illinois Shines projects. And that was incredible because at that time, our MES rate was set to 10%. And so we saw that entities were able to collectively far exceed that at 18%, which is very encouraging. On the next slide, let's look at who these EEPs really are. And so here you'll see that the EEPs that were engaged over the course of the year, that about 61%, the majority of them were really employed in full-time positions, which is also incredibly encouraging because it indicates, secure and stable employment. And that is the goal of the equity accountability system. On the following slide, you will see that from our EEP registration data here, that when we look at the demographics of those EEPs, there is a lot of diversity in the racial and ethnic demographics of EEPs. And when we compare it to national workforce data, we can see the representation of Black and African American EEPs in Illinois is higher than the national average, which is about only 9%. Even the Hispanic and Latino EEP registration is just slightly higher than the national average, which is very encouraging. And on the next slide here, we'll see the geographic representation of where these EEPs are from. And so we do see a high concentration in Cook County, knowing that the state's, 41% of the state's population resides in Cook County. That's not surprising, but it did sort of give us marching orders to see what else we could do to expand our outreach elsewhere in the state. That said, there is, when you look at the other regions of the state, there is a fairly even distribution across the rest of the state. So that's great too. And then on the next slide, we'll see when it comes to qualification criteria, we can see that the majority of EEPs are qualifying based on their primary residence as in an EIEC area. And so that really underscores the importance of that qualifying category. And we also recently have seen a huge uptick in individuals qualifying through the job training and workforce development programs. And that's a direct result of those programs coming online and graduating more students. And so that's very encouraging as well, because it allows us to expand that pool of EEPs. On the next slide, you'll see a visualization that shows us what the distribution of EEPs are as they are categorized by their qualification criteria and then disaggregated by race and ethnicity. And so it shows how the different pathways for EEP qualification contribute to the overall diversity of the clean energy workforce. And what's really prominent in this visual is that the EEP population that's qualifying through the job training programs are really, that there's a lot of diversity within that category. And then individuals in that category, we're just seeing a different demographic and ethnic breakdown than in the other qualifying groups. So that's encouraging. It also sort of suggests that these programs may play a significant role in fostering the workforce diversity as they seem to attract a variety of participants from a broad range of backgrounds. And then if we move on to the next slide, we can see here the equity eligible contractors that have been approved for participation in the program. And since the report was published, we can see that has increased to about 138 EECs that have registered. And on the next slide, you'll see that the majority of them qualify again based on residency, and so that remains consistent. And on the subsequent slide, you'll see that EECs are geographically predominantly again in Cook County. However, what isn't captured in this is that while EEC may be located there, it's not necessarily indicative of where the projects are being developed, because those are across the region. Okay, and then on the next slide here, you'll see that, so one of the other requirements the agency had is to create the Energy Workforce Equity Portal that Nate was discussing. And this is really, our goal is to create a hub where companies, individuals, the public at large can come to understand more about the sector, find out about job opportunities. For companies, it's an opportunity for them to recruit EEPs. And so this portal is really critical in bridging sort of those connections between these different stakeholders. And on the next slide, you'll see that EEPs in the portal have just increased, have steadily grown since its launch in 2023. And there was a big uptick in the spring, again, when those DCEO programs, came online and started graduating individuals. And on the next slide, you'll see clean energy companies that are registered in the portal are also increasing. And these companies are also then posting job opportunities for those EEPs to engage with, which is fantastic. And then finally, on the next slide here, one of the other resources or expansions we've made to the equity portal is to start a small and emerging business hub, in which we are trying to support small businesses to start and grow and scale their companies. And so here we centralize a lot of industry-specific information and try and connect small and emerging businesses to tools, resources, programs that can meet their needs as they look to grow in the sector. And then finally, a couple of things that the agency is going to be working on moving forward. We are creating a DEI dashboard so that we can share data about the implementation and impact of the equity accountability system year over year. And so while we published the report earlier this year, we're now reviewing data collected in year 2 of implementation. And by next summer, we'll have a dashboard ready where we can publicly share that information. We're also continuously making improvements to the equity portal based on feedback from EEPs and our stakeholders. And then finally, we've also launched our racial disparity study that is going to be looking at the presence and impact of racial discrimination or disparities in the clean energy sector as a whole for minority businesses and workers. And then based on those findings, which we'll have in about 18 months, we hope to then come together to create some recommendations on what can be improved in the equity accountability system to better meet those disparities if they exist. And on the next slide is my contact information. Feel free to reach out if you have questions on any of this. I know I walked through it pretty quickly. And I will pass it back to Leslie.
Oh, Tanvi, thanks so much. Honestly, it was fascinating and really encouraging to see the data laid out like that. That was great. So thanks for taking the time. That was a lot of information to go through in that short amount of time. So next up, we have Ana Almada. She is the program manager for workforce development and DEI justice for NextAMP. So Ana, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Leslie. Thank you so much, Tanvi. That was so inspiring to hear. Admire of your work, definitely. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana Olmeda. As Leslie said, I'm the program manager for workforce development and DEIJ engagement here at NextAMP. Just an overview of my role. I lead initiatives that expand our workforce pipelines and strengthen compliance across our projects. Today, I'm going to walk you through NextAMP's workforce training programs and how we're building pathways into clean energy careers by connecting with community partners and creating opportunities for equity and advancement. So this is just an overview. Oh, next slide, please. Yes. This is just an overview of how we do just that. This year, we connected with over 20 community partners and institutions standing up CEJA workforce hubs. Listed here are some examples of colleges, universities, local partners like Chicago Cred, and many other CEJA workforce hubs across the state. We strategically use the DCEO grantee list to build these partnerships and connect them to opportunities either with our in-house programs or employment opportunities with our subcontractors directly. We also host subcontractor information session. NextAMP hosts these in-house information sessions to educate our subs on meeting the Illinois MES. And we also share on these calls the importance of hiring EEPs from our community partners. I serve as that bridge for our subs. We also host calls that directly bridge CEJA partners to our current subcontractors for employment opportunities. This approach helps to ensure that we're building an inclusive network that supports workforce development at every level. There's also an equity and compliance angle as well. On the equity and compliance side, we encourage our subs, contractors, and community partners to support registration and tracking of EEPs, equity eligible persons. This keeps our projects accountable and ensures that our workforce reflects the communities that we serve. I think ultimately our goal is to make sure that all of our actions make sure that we are expanding our green energy workforce and we position ourselves and solar as a renewable energy option across the state. Next slide, please. Okay, so when I meet with our CEJA partners across the state, our local community partners, and more, I communicate our upcoming hiring needs, specifically the recruitment of 50 new construction superintendent positions that we're launching and 5 new construction observer positions beginning in Q1 of 2026. When I emphasize this career pipeline when I speak to our community partners, I emphasize this career pipeline beginning at the very entry-level construction observer role to the construction superintendent role. This showcases, a clear advancement opportunity. When I speak with our community partners, I talk mostly about the construction observer role because this is the most entry-level role that allows participants to enter in, get training on, receive mentorship on by our by our construction superintendents. Sorry about that. And then this role is designed as a pipeline. So construction observers gain the mentorship and site experience that they need, and then transition into these superintendent roles and ultimately into full-time NextStamp W-2 roles. Next slide, please. So beyond external partnerships, NextStamp also has in-house workforce training programs that expand opportunities for equity eligible participants. NextStamp has launched the City Colleges of Chicago Fellowship. This is the first of its kind 8-week STEM fellowship created in partnership with the City Colleges of Chicago. In 2024, we had a modification that recruited 4 OAI students for our second fellowship cohort. Above is an image of the fellows at our solar farm in Kankakee, Illinois. Our third cohort, which wrapped in July 2025, had 19 equity eligible participants. So we're very proud of that and proud to continue this work. Just as a note, this year made the NextStamp Fellowship one of the most sought after fellowships in the region, reeling in 300 student applications across all 7 city colleges. We also have an in-house training program called Solar Sunrise. Solar Sunrise is NextStamp's flagship program that takes 2 equity eligible participants through a 9-month rotation program through NextStamp's Clean Energy Deployment Business Unit. These 2 participants learn the NextStamp way while rotating through our construction field teams, engineering teams, supply chain management, estimation teams, and more. At the end of the 9-month program, they land a role at NextStamp within the Clean Energy Deployment Business Unit. Pictured above is Takariana Anthony. She is a 2024 OAI and the Academy Group alum, and currently a 2025 Solar Sunrise participant, hoping to end in November 2025 this year. Okay, so this brings my slides to a close. Happy to connect further. Should you have any questions about our impact, I'm happy to share my email in the chat with you all. Thank you.
Oh, that was beautiful. It's exciting to hear the work that NextStamp is doing. Anna, you guys are a wonderful example of what a company can do to ensure not only that they are moving forward, but supporting all of the workforce opportunities that the state has stood up. So thank you for taking the time today. That was great. Next, we're going to hear from Samira. Samira is the Energy Policy Director for the Illinois Environmental Council. Samira, it's all yours.
Thanks, Leslie. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Samira Nessian. I'm the Energy Policy Director with the Illinois Environmental Council. I am also heavily engaged with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. Next slide, please. Okay. So as we heard earlier, CEJA established the state's clean and renewable energy goals and creates an equitable pathway to meet those goals. As part of that pathway, CEJA does a couple of key high-level things for renewable energy deployment. It provides funding for clean energy projects and creates clean energy career training opportunities through CEJA's workforce hubs, which we've already heard a little bit about. Those workforce programs target returning citizens, residents facing barriers to employment, graduates of foster care system, and those in environmental justice communities, historically disadvantaged communities, and fossil fuel impacted communities. IEC, my organization, notably worked in partnership with the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition to pass CEJA and has been working to host CEJA Workforce Hub tours for legislators and community partners. I will be highlighting some successes from 2 workforce hubs today, in Decatur and Alton, Illinois. Next slide, please. So I get the fun job. For a little bit of context, I will start with a couple of brief historical facts about the Decatur hub location. As One of the strategic hubs established under CEJA, Richland Community College, or RCC, is a scalable success story. Decatur exemplifies the type of community that CEJA is designed to benefit. It is recognized as both an environmental justice and restore, reinvest, renew community with a longstanding industrial heritage. After decades of layoffs and factory closings, the community of Decatur is also looking to clean energy as a potential springboard. Decatur's hub, based out of the Richland Community College, is arguably the most developed and successful of the dozen hubs or so established statewide. Training pathways include solar PV installation, home energy auditor, HVAC installer, and EV hybrid technician. RCC recently enrolled its 100th student across all 3 of its cohorts, each of which has seen successful enrollment. And RCC provides comprehensive wraparound services, including an 8-week Bridge Essential Skills course. That success is largely thanks in part to TCCI Manufacturing, a local family-owned factory that makes electric vehicle compressors that has forged a working relationship with the hub to hire graduates. Other notable partners include part of Illinois Community Foundation, Springfield Urban League, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or IBEW, Local 146, Solutions for Energy Efficient Logistics, or SEAL, TCI Manufacturing, Ameren, Illinois, Rivian, and other collaborators. And by combining top-tier training with essential support, RCC ensures that students are equipped to excel in Illinois, expanding in the clean energy sector. Next slide, please. So I'd like to highlight an inspirational graduate from the RCC's CEJA Workforce Hub. Honorable is 41 years old, was involved in a fist fight in 1999 when he and a group of teen boys were expelled and faced criminal charges over the incident. The story of the Decatur 7 drew national headlines at the time, and protests led by Reverend Jesse Jackson, who framed their harsh treatment as blatant racism. And this is just a really clear story of how CEJA leaves no one behind. CEJA allowed the Richland Community College to bolster its offerings with wraparound social services and basic education, helping a wider range of students overcome barriers and prepare for careers in the industry. Honorable is ready to start a new chapter, having graduated with honors from the Clean Energy Workforce Training Program. He would eventually like to own or manage a solar company, but he has more immediate plans to start a solar-powered mobile hot dog stand, and he's already chosen a name for it called Buns on the Run. So if you're in the Decatur area, keep an eye out for Honorable's new business. Next slide, please. Next, we'll talk about the Alton hub location, which serves the broader Southern Illinois community. The city of Alton has a longstanding history of financial support from the coal mining and oil refining industry, historically home to many workers of the Wood River Refinery. Alton is now home to many equity-eligible contractors like ARF Solar, working to build solar and other clean energy projects. The Lewis and Clark Community College is unique as it hosts the CEJA Workforce Hub and Climate Works Pre-Apprenticeship Program. Both training programs are funded by CEJA and connect program participants with equity, with quality union and non-union clean energy careers. ARF is a fabulous solar company founded by Austin Frank, who actually was a Future Energy Jobs Act, or FEJA, workforce graduate, and ended up standing up his own business, and is now hiring out of the community college where he received his training, and we'll end up hearing more from ARF later on this call. Next slide, please. Great. So more about Lewis and Clark Community College. LC is all about community, having collaboration at the center of their work, with a 95% CEJA graduation rate at Lewis and Clark. Leading solar companies are hiring graduates who are now employed at 8 different companies, including ARF Solar. Key partners include their Energy Transition Navigator, Senior Services Plus, as well as local WIOA programs and trade partners working together to accelerate enrollment and expand their community reach. Through these collaborations, LC has 10 cohorts, 3 solar, 1 energy auditor, 5 pre-apprenticeship construction, and 1 HVAC cohort, with training pathways in solar PV, energy auditing, HVAC/heat pump, as well as the Climate Works pre-apprenticeship program. And some early graduates have shared their stories since leaving the CEJA program. Next slide, please. So on the slide, just want to highlight the group photo at the top shows a recent cohort of graduates. The photo of a graduation on the left is actually with Kyle Barber, who's an instructor at LC. And then down in the bottom right, we have Jill Blair, who is a second solar cohort graduate and will be speaking to you all shortly. He's with ARF. Taryn Sensmeyer was part of the first solar cohort. She's in the bottom middle or so. And with her story, as a returning citizen with children and struggling in poverty since a young age, CEJA provided her the education and opportunity and the resources necessary to forge a better future for herself and her loved ones. She is now employed and can plan for a more secure financial future where for the first time, she does not need to rely on government financial assistance to put food on the table and has started to be able to save. So all that to say, there is more to come. We look forward to the next graduation in October as they continue with their efforts to prepare graduates for meaningful careers while simultaneously providing local employers with the skilled workforce they need to thrive. I believe that brings me to the end of my portion.
That's great. So, thank you. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Thanks so much, Samira. It was so encouraging to hear people's stories and how folks are really benefiting and advancing opportunities for themselves and their families. So thanks for sharing that. Appreciate that. Next, we're going to hear from Fred Navari. Fred is the program director for 548 Foundation, and 548 is a CEJA Workforce Hub grant recipient. So Fred, tell us all the news that's fit to print, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me today. So as she stated, I'm the program director for 548 Foundation, and I'll be discussing career pathways for a sustainable future. We'll review our story and impact, and also how we're transforming the workforce for tomorrow. Next slide, please. So if you've never heard the story of 548 Foundation, how we got started, it's actually a quite impactful story. When our founder, AJ Patton, walked through his first major development, he recognized the power to shape not just buildings, but also an opportunity. So that decision sparked a broader vision to equip people in overlooked neighborhoods and to rebuild and revitalize their own communities. Today, 548 Foundation carries that vision forward through sustainable energy workforce education, hands-on training, mentorship, job placements, and job placement support. Next slide, please. Our vision is to create pathways for meaningful employment and apprenticeship opportunities within the clean energy industry. Our mission is to address economic inequities by providing comprehensive training and support services in the renewable energy sector, particularly for underserved and historically marginalized communities. Now, our goals are simple yet impactful, and they simply are to increase community awareness, empower through training and job creation, and to advance community resilience. Next slide, please. So we offer training today, transforming the workforce of tomorrow. We're proud to operate 2 distinct programs, high-impact workforce training programs designed to empower individuals from historically marginalized and underserved communities. Our programs serve low-income individuals, justice impact populations, the unemployed, equity-eligible residents, and those living in environmental justice communities, offering them access to meaningful pathways into the clean energy sector and related trades. Next slide, please. So our first program is the Climate Works Apprenticeship Program. is structured as an industry-aligned training initiative designed to prepare participants for seamless entry into registered apprenticeship programs. Next slide, please. Second, we have our Clean Jobs Training Program, which offers participants two specialized pathways. They are the PV installation pathway or the electrical systems pathway. Next slide, please. For academic policy, trainees are expected to maintain a minimum grade point average of at least 70%. Trainees failing to meet academic requirements will be placed on academic probation. Probation continues until unsatisfactory requirements are remedied. And all makeup hours and testing must be completed before taking any final examinations. Next slide, please. So for our solar PV training program, the graduation requirements are completion of 450 clock hours of instructor-led and lab-based training and PV. For construction program, completion of 300 hours, and successful completion of all required module written exams with a minimum score of 70%. Attendance must be maintained at 95%, and completion and submission of all instructor program evaluation forms must be submitted. Next slide, please. 548 Foundation has developed a robust industry partner network of coalition of leading clean energy companies, contractors, and developers that have pledged to consider and employ program graduates on renewable and sustainable energy projects as they originate or construct. More than a simple directory of contacts, as we know, this network represents strategic alliance between the training and industry demand. Next slide, please. So for job tracking placements, we offer comprehensive data tracking and ongoing retention and support. Case managers maintain a secure and shared database that captures detailed placement information for every graduate that comes through the program. Also, beyond initial job placement, case managers provide dedicated employment retention services for up to 1 year after completion of the program. Next slide, please. In measuring progress, outreach and recruitment, our current wait list currently has 413 applicants, and we expect to train 500 people during this project year. To date, our graduation rate is 78%. All 387 participants are assigned a case manager to receive wraparound support for the duration of their training. And we also have achieved 75% full-time employment placement rate for graduates securing stable, rewarding careers that reflect the growing demand for the clean energy talent. Next slide, please. Now, support beyond the classroom, as we all know, is extremely important. We offer housing assistance, financial assistance, life skills coaching. Next slide, please. We also offer job readiness, emotional and mental health support, and ongoing retention support. Next slide, please. So at 548 Foundation, we always say this is where training becomes transformation. As we reflect on our progress, we're reminded that true change happens when we empower people to lead better lives. At 548 Foundation, we're not just providing training, we're offering hope, opportunity, and a foundation for lasting success. Next slide, please. And we offer you the opportunity to keep the conversation going. Our website is 548foundation.org. Or if you have any questions or want to connect, my email address is fnavar@548foundation.org. Thank you all for having us today, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
That's amazing, Fred. I didn't really understand how robust the training program was, and that many
Thank you.
folks are moving through the program, and that's a really
Glory.
impressive success rate. Graduation.
Thank you.
Love that. Love that. Okay, and next we have Joel Blair. Joel is works for ARF Solar and is the residential installation team lead for that organization. And as you probably already got a little advance notice, is an equity eligible program grant graduate. So Joel, it's all yours. And Joel is out in the field, so hopefully he is with us at this exact moment. Okay, Give me 1 second. I'm going to get Joel's attention. Just as a reminder, folks can leave their you can leave your questions in the chat. And Joel is here. He's just having a little trouble with the audio, so he's going to get himself back in the race here. And Joel, whenever you can get yourself back on, just let us know. And this event, oh, here he comes. He's back in the room. And this webinar has been recorded. We will share out the recording as well as the slides for folks to review, because I know this was a lot of really good information. Okay, Joel, I think you're here.
Did it work?
It worked. You're back.
I'm hoping you can hear me.
We can. It's all good.
I don't know. For some reason, last time I unmuted myself and Zoom took me out of the meeting.
And as I said, Joel is in the field. You can see we've got a person very dedicated to spreading the news about clean energy opportunities. So Joel, I gave an introduction for you already. So yeah, you can take it away.
Well, I came across the CEJA program at the Open Hub when I was looking to transition from my previous life, which was in the world of live music. So I have a 9-year-old autistic and needs a little bit of attention in the home. And the schedule just wasn't conducive anymore because I couldn't work nights and be home for him. I needed something new, and my skill set didn't exactly translate to anything else. Luckily, I had a little bit of background with electrical work, being a stage electrician. And so I had a leg up going into this program, but really the way it's structured, you don't need to know about that going in. They do a really good job of giving you all the fundamental information of the trades in general, but the specific information of installing solar that you don't need to know anything about it to become someone who can step out of those doors after graduation, find a job and be able to do the job, which is exactly what I need. The support structure they have built in during the program, having that stipend so that you don't fall back on your bills while you're trying to transition into a new career, as well as everybody else in the program had their own specific roadblocks, but the transportation allowances, bus passes, and things seem to be one of the most beneficial for almost everyone involved. I went through a period where I didn't have a car, couldn't drive, and just having a way to get to school and not have to worry about it was a phenomenal boost to being able to complete that program. The clean energy portion of it is, sorry, it's been a long day out here. The clean energy portion of the program at the beginning, before you get into the specifics of the photovoltaic installation that I did, have actually made me want to keep going in that direction, learn more and become more proficient with all of renewable energy and get into the educational field, because it's really something that needs to be spoken about more. And I find it lacking in our communities. So it's given me the ability to put myself on a career path that has a lot of growth in my future. I've already went from just being a basic guy on the roof installing solar panels to a team lead in just a couple months, because the program gave me all the information I needed to hit the ground running and really prove that I know what I'm doing and I can accomplish this job. I really don't have much more to say about than that. The introduction gave me a little bit of the things that I was going to say about the program.
Yeah, exactly. We've imparted a lot of information. But Joel, yeah, thanks so much. Joel was tapped last night around 8:30 to take part today. And
so I don't have
even
slides,
though
sorry.
he's the crew lead, he was able to take the time and join us from, it looks like, your truck. So that's really, really great. Thanks again.
We wrap things up
for
early so we could be on the road for this.
Yeah, thanks again for sharing your story.